Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, the Smart Tech Stack, Powering Scalable Short-Term Rentals. I'm your host, Simon Lehmann from AJL Atelier, and I've been 2 decades within the short-term rental industry, and it's a pleasure and honor to be your host with an incredible lineup that we have as speakers, which I will introduce to you shortly. This webinar is being recorded and being sent to all the attendants that have registered to the webinar today. Maybe for some, they've ended up at the swimming pool instead of the office due to the heats that we're all experiencing across Europe. But definitely we have incredible content. Talking about tech stack is one of the topics that concerns us every day within the short-term rental and the hospitality industry. So as a next step, I quickly run through the agenda. So we do a quick introduction. We talk about the fragmented tech landscape, which I will allude on to start with. Then we will see a presentation talking about the guest segments that we need to cater for. And then we also hear a presentation from Jim Blaze from Guestway, and then at the end we talk about pricing with Simon Lehmann as well. We will have some time for Q&A. I will wrap up before that, but you can also ask questions during the webinar as we proceed. We will not get into the questions during the webinar. We will go and tackle them at the end in the Q&A session. So that brings us to the next slide that we talk about some housekeeping issues. So we've set ourselves a time between 45 and 60 minutes, depending how engaged you guys are and how many questions you will have. As I said, the webinar will be recorded, and please do ask questions. If you have any, keep them as general as we can so we can share them with our participants. And for everybody's luck, I've prepared some questions as well for the end of the presentation as well. So that's us. And now let's start into the presentation from my side. So as I said, welcome you. My name, Simon Lehmann. I'm the co-founder and CEO of AJL Atelier, based out of Zurich, Switzerland. We're a boutique consultancy firm working with investors, SaaS companies, property management companies across the world. I've seen a lot in this space. I've been on the board of very large OTAs. Live and breathe vacation rental, had an experience with Vacasa as well. So I've seen a lot of different aspects of the industry, from an operational, from a technology, from a scaling, from a distribution side. And as I said earlier, it's a true honor to be your webinar host today with these incredible speakers, which I now will also introduce to you. So first off, we're going to have Selina Wendel talking after my 30,000 feet overview on where the tech landscape is at from Apaleo. Jim Blaze, head of sales from Guestway. It's a great pleasure to have you here as well. And then obviously Simon Lehmann, head of sales DACH from Smartness, talking about revenue management and pricing. So we tried to put a tech stack together here that will help you to master the challenges we face in the short-term rental industry at ease. But technology stack is definitely one of the biggest challenges. And when we see how the landscape looks like, and that's something I want to allude on within my starting points, is the tech landscape is incredibly fragmented. And that next slide will highlight that very much. So AJL Atelier, as I said, is a consulting firm that monitors the tech landscape. And we have built a masterpiece, I could say, within the technology landscape of the STR industry, and that shows how fragmented that is within our ecosystem. So this is the famous AJL short-term rental industry tech landscape. You can also download that from our website. Obviously, it's very small the way it looks right now. We're tracking currently about 420 different technology providers across the value chain, from the management side of the business to distribution to operation and guest experience. So if you're a PMC, a property management company, either urban or leisure, doesn't matter where in the world, this is highly challenging to make sure that you choose the right tech stack. we always forget sometimes in these conversations that we're actually in the hospitality industry. So we're in the people's business, we're in the relationship business. We want to build great experiences across our guests and owners. And at the end, we need to deal with technology. And a lot of surveys that we have conducted in the past have clearly shown with property managers, no matter where we do that, in the US, in Europe, in Latin America, or even Australia, dealing with technology is one of the single biggest challenges of any property management company. And this landscape clearly illustrates why. So on the left-hand side, you see all the PMSs, the different PMSs with website builders, full integrated PMSs with channel management as well. Then you have PMSs who come more classical from the hotel space, which everything gets a lot more blurry. Some of the analysis has shown, especially in North America, that the average property manager is using between 6 and 7 different technology platforms to run its business. And that excludes platforms like obviously Google or Microsoft, something we use on a daily basis. This purely includes everything we run the STR business: PMS, channel manager, revenue management, content management systems, all the likes. And that is very hard to make the right decision. What are your needs? Are you doing a proper sourcing of these tools? And that needs a lot of navigation. But actually, it's maybe not as complex as we all think, because we have made this landscape very complex. For example, pre-COVID, there was hardly any guest communication and guest-facing applications. Now we count over 60 companies in that space that are entering into this industry, and it's become very competitive. And as I said, for any PMC, very hard to make the right choices based on their needs. One thing I always I'm a bit cynical about when we work with property managers or with SaaS providers within the overall industry, it's we think about how complex can this industry be, right? At the end of the day, the only thing we do hypothetically is connect guests with owners, and we have 420 platforms that are trying to get a part of that. And ultimately, what's key here is to think about what is truly game-changing for you as a property manager in terms of what technology you source to make your operation as smooth and seamless as possible, to have the best possible guest experience, and to have the best possible product also for your homeowners and your staff. So this is a triangle we're working with within technology. And ultimately, that is definitely hard. And I think this webinar today will address those very much so. A PMS shouldn't be an island. We see PMS is expanding its value proposition, but other technologies have been superior in certain features as well. And ultimately, the big question is, how is this technology landscape going to evolve and revolutionize over time? So let us jump right into it. I don't want to go any further. I have a lot of more content to talk about, but hopefully we can do that at the end and get some time for questions and answer. Now, we would like to hear from Selina Wendel from Apaleo to talk about how they approach these challenges with their technology and what makes a great tech stack.
Perfect. Thank you, Simon, first of all. And I will start right into the topic, Apaleo as the base of your tech stack. First of all, as a property manager, next slide. First of all, as a property manager, it never should be your goal to turn into a tech company or spend the whole day staring at a dashboard. You're here to provide an exceptional guest experience and to run a successful business in the end of the day. However, once someone starts to scale up to 10, 20, or 50 units, it becomes quite challenging to maintain a smooth operations and retaining a personal touch with your guests. The right tech stack should always just fade into the background and give your team more time to focus on your guests and help your business to grow. That said, tech moves quite fast, and there are a million options outside in the world, and it can all get a bit overwhelming in the end. I'm sharing a real life example today, a real world example of one of our customers to help you figure out the setup that will work for you and your business to grow in the end. And if you're totally new to this tech stuff, don't worry, we are always happy to help you get started without any stress. Let me first of all, introduce you to one of our customers. I myself had the pleasure of meeting them in person last year. I had the pleasure to talk with them about their story, and we were able to support them in overcoming some key challenges, and I will present them today to you. You will see them here already. First of all, about Glückauf. It is a German real estate company specializing in property rental management and development. And one of its core ventures is Glückauf Apartments, which offers fully furnished apartments across 12 locations in the Ruhr and Cologne area. And it's tailored for business travelers and also guests seeking a comfortable home away from home, like lots of different providers in the world. However, without a centralized system, managing availability and guest data across multiple apartment locations became quite inefficient and time-consuming for them. On top of that, with a small team and a PMS that lacked automations, Glückauf Apartments had to handle payments and invoices always manually, leading to fragmented workflows, recurring inefficiencies, and a higher risk of human error in the end. Now, Apaleo came into place, and thanks to Apaleo's centralized multi-property functionality, Glückauf Apartments saves up to 50 hours per week. You will see this on the next slide as well, written down, and was able to onboard 11 properties with more than 100 units in just 2 weeks, which is quite impressive, I have to say. Not all of our customers are able to do that, but as you can see, it's definitely possible. Our easy-to-use platform made the onboarding with Glückauf Apartments so easy that even the staff that had no prior hospitality experience could start using it really right away from the beginning. On top of that, by automating 90% of the guest journey, they were able to save an additional 25 hours weekly on payments and invoicing, while also boosting their guest satisfaction and increasing their direct bookings by 11% in just a few weeks. Now, why choose Apaleo is the question. Apaleo provides a core platform that takes care of your essentials. And thanks to our open API, you can seamlessly connect to the exact tools that you need for your operations, whether it is a digital guest journey, a revenue management, a communications tool, or really whatever comes to your mind, as we have more than 400 partners on the App Store. Now, you can see Apaleo provides the perfect foundation for your tech stack, but a PMS is nothing without its partners, like a digital guest journey. And that's what Jim will show you next. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, Celine, as well. So at Guestway, what we do is we do guest communications and smart operations. And before I start off, I maybe wanted to share a nice quote that I read recently about saying that if the PMS is the heart of your organization, Apaleo in this case, and on the right side, you have revenue management system, Smartness, which is the brain of the body, then you can consider guest communication as the nervous system. Because what we do is we try to sense trouble early and we try to avoid revenue from bleeding out. So I was reading about it and I was like, oh, that's a quite nice comparison that you can see the importance of how important guest communication is. And that brings me to my second slide, meaning guest communication is super important in a company. And what we did is we tried to analyze some pain points that were most commonly in guest communication. Simon, if you can go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So since we started off as a property management company ourselves, what we did is we analyzed over 1 million messages, guest messages, and we analyzed some of the main key insights that we gathered. The first one, for example, being 50% of all guests' friction is inbox fixable. So what does it mean? Is that 50% of all of those 1 million messages that we analyzed comes from either booking and pricing details or check-in and check-out messages. So check-in and check-out messages, I think it's quite clear. When do you check in? Hi, when can I check out? What are the possibilities there? Booking and pricing details, then we're talking about cancellation requests, pricing changes after booking, or the third point being the response time from the host, that often guests send something and they're waiting for a response time from their host. Again, highlighting how important it is. So it's quite funny to see that often all of the messages that are sent 50% can be easily covered if you have a unified inbox and are able to answer these type of questions. The second interesting insight that we found is speed equals stars, or better said, speed buys stars, meaning that if you look at the right side of this slide, there we analyzed what the impact is based on the response time you have as a host. So if you look all the way down, you can see that you have more than 24 hours response time. It's a quite significant negative impact, minus 1.7 stars on a scale, on a 5-star scale. It's quite significant. And the first time when I saw it, I was wondering myself, how can that happen? Well, I think some of us will relate to this. We've all been there, that you're in a situation where you accidentally read something and just forgot to respond to it. Well, that's what happens then. And of course, that's something that we try to avoid. And of course, with Guestway, we have a solution for that as well. But let's not talk about the negative part. Let's look at the positive part. As you can see that if you answer within the first 15 minutes, which is quite fast, but I think everybody's up for a challenge, it even has a positive impact of 0.3 stars, which is quite nice to see. Now, one small thing that I want to highlight here on the speed by stars is another interesting insight that we found is that specifically for Airbnb conversions, for Airbnb guests, apparently they're very sensitive to response times, because we found out that if you have sub 1 hour replies, meaning if you answer within the first hour on Airbnb, it results in a 25% higher conversion rate. So quite interesting to also keep in the back of your mind. And then the last result, which was really astonishing for me, channel hopping costs 9 hours per week. So can you imagine on average that a property management company or a hotel spends on average 9 hours per week hopping between the different OTAs, messages, emails, etc. And that is something that we really want to avoid by having a unified inbox. And this brings me to my next slide, because a unified inbox is something crucial. But we start to see more and more, and this is also something that Simon talked about, what we more and more see is that PMSs and other companies are offering these unified inboxes. But for us, every unified inbox is not the same. And that's why in this slide, I want to highlight what we consider also after consolidation with many different partners in the industry, what are the key features that a unified inbox should have. The first one being, previous slide, thanks Simon. The first one being, and the most important of all, obviously, is one view for every channel. A unified inbox should be able to do guest communication via all the different channels, whether it's Airbnb, Booking.com, WhatsApp, Message, Instagram, or even your own email, or even your own direct booking website. They should all be consolidated inside your unified inbox. And then the second, then I have 3 sub features I want to highlight. In order to get that speed, to get that efficiency, a crucial feature is having AI replies based on the conversation that you have with the guest, the listing, more information about conversations in the past, and very important as well, let's not forget the message templates. Hi guest, thank you for coming, looking forward to staying you there. They've been there for ages, and I still believe they will remain there for ages, because everybody loves those saved replies in order to save time. The second big sub features, multi-calendar view, and this was also based on a lot of requests that we got from, for example, our Apaleo clients, meaning that it's very important to have an easy switch between an overview of all of your listings and when they have a reservation, and on the other side, knowing what type of, on the other side, being easily switched to that specific conversation. So having a multi-calendar view, a complete overview of all of your listings with their specific reservations linked to your unified inbox is a highly added value features that we really want to see inside unified inbox. And then last but definitely not least, I think one of the most important ones, and I think everybody can relate, is that team collaboration. You want your team to work together in the back end, solving those guest communications. And what are some important features to highlight then is being able to assign a conversation to somebody, being able to translate a certain conversation, mute or remind a conversation, and also what we really like to see, being able to make internal notes so that you can communicate with your other colleagues about a certain guest or reservation and giving this guest the best experience. We want your people to live inside the unified inbox. And that brings me to my last slide. Why choose Guestway? Because we at Guestway, our purpose is to completely cover the whole guest journey from A to Z. And how do we currently do that? We start off by the unified inbox. As I just explained, the guest sends a message and you can answer it in the unified inbox. Once the guest arrives to the property, we can send them a guest app, and from there, the guest app can fully have the smart lock access, do personalized upsells, still being able to communicate with us through the guest apps and other really nice features. Meanwhile, while the guest is enjoying his stay, you as an operator in the backend are controlling all of the smart operations. Maybe you have to extend their stay. Maybe you have to do something with their smart thermostats, which is perfectly possible through our platform. And then last but not least, once the client leaves, of course, you want to make the listing or the room really nice and clean for the next guest to arrive. So then you also have a cleaning app on our platform that you can make use for. And this all in one platform for your people to have the best guest journey ever. So this is what we do at Guestway, and this is what we believe should be part of your smart tech stack. And I would also like to give the word to our colleagues from Smartness who focus on pricing of revenue management software. Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jim. Welcome everyone to Smartness. I introduced you to something new because Smartness, maybe some of you are not aware what it is, but we are a platform helping vacation rentals, property managers, and hotels to basically offer them different softwares to support them. One of them is smart pricing, which I will focus on today, and maybe some of you know already. Why I'm talking to you today and why it's part of a tech full stack to help you grow your business and revenue is because if we look at global numbers of property management and vacation rental, 60% still rely on manual pricing, which is incredible. If we break it down to Germany and Austria, the number is even higher. And also more drastic when we look at like 20 to 30% of the properties are still using only automated pricing. That's why I'm talking to you today, because revenue management systems, and I'm a huge chess fan, I'm bringing you some anecdote from chess. Like a revenue management software is like a grandmaster in chess. It's always thinking several moves ahead, anticipating competitor pricing and guest behavior to make the smartest move at the perfect time. Why is it so important? If we look at the problems that vacation rentals are facing, is basically it's a lot of time. It's time consuming. Doing the prices manually, on average between 20 to 40 hours, property managers are dealing with manual pricing per month. But looking at why is it so difficult? Because traveling is getting more and more volatile. If you look at the numbers, especially here in Germany, travelers book up to 16 days in advance. This is more and more moving, so it's getting even shorter the time frame that people are booking in advance. The average after COVID dropped from 3.5 nights average stay to 2.5 nights. So every night counts that you basically get a booking in. And of course, keeping up with competitor pricings and demand and events is becoming more and more difficult, especially if you do it on a manual basis. That's why I'm talking to you today, and also trying to give a solution for it, because smart pricing is a machine learning based revenue management software that's basically taking you away the burden, working on autopilot, working on 24/7 analyzing real-time market data. We take the data from the PMSs of the vacation rentals. So we read and write at the same time and update it either in the PMS and then in the OTs. So no work has to be done on that. We take that over. The prices are updated 24/7, as I mentioned. It's based on demands, and we analyze events and all the other external factors that affect pricing together, combined with internal factors in the PMS of the property. And we try to optimize the price at the optimum time, as I mentioned before, because the market is changing drastically. People are booking like in seconds before they arrive. That's why it's really important to have a software taking over basically this task. What is the result? Of course, more revenue, but more revenue is depending on the average daily rate plus occupancy. So either one of them can be optimized and increasing the revenue. You have less manual work, you save the time, and you can fully focus on what matters, the customer. How does smart pricing work? Our core product is machine learning. It's a subcategory of artificial intelligence. And we basically work with clusters. We analyze the market, internal data, external data in real time. We connect with the PMS, read the prices, write the prices in real time if something is changing on the market. And we have more than 80 integrations on the market. You can look them up on our website if we have the correct PMS integration, so we can work together and help you optimizing your revenue. And on average, our software helps you in the first year increasing the revenue by 32%. I have an example where we did that. Homekeepers, which is a customer of Apaleo and us, that started working with us in 2023. They have 8 apartments. They started 2023. They had the problem of managing the prices manually. They couldn't keep up with the demand of the market, with the changes, so on. That's why they joined our software. And in 2024, they increased their revenue by 70%, which is more than a double of our average that we do with our 5,000 clients. We increased occupancy and we increased, of course, as well the RevPAR. So that's in a nutshell, smart pricing, how we can help you increasing revenue, how we did it with examples. If you want to know more about it, how it looks in real time, get in touch with me or with our colleagues here. Now I leave it to Simon, who's ramping it up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. We were very quick, so we still have a lot of time to have a debate or have a conversation. So why don't you move to the next slide? And before I go deeper, first of all, I want to tell the audience that I'm more than happy for you to raise any questions that you might have. This, in a way, sounds all too good to be true, and I want to be somewhat also the devil's advocate. And if you look at the tech stack of the future, this is what something has been put together in terms of what is really differentiating yourself from the rest of the pack for property managers to make their life as easy as possible. I want to start my first question to Selina, and we can highlight here that Apaleo has won the Innovation Award at the last Focusrite conference in Barcelona. And my question is why? It's very simple. Why and how do you differentiate? I think when Apaleo came out to market and building its marketplace of solutions, it's not that easy to understand what's a differentiating factor to a current PMS and what makes Apaleo stand out.
I would say what makes Apaleo stand out is that we really try to focus on the vision our customers do have. So we learned that not every customer is the same. Not every hotel business, not every STR business is the same. Everyone has their own vision. Everyone has their own unique employees and guests. So the solution, the whole tech stack in the end, it really has to fit their vision. And due to this best of breed approach, the open APIs, we are the ones who are able to give you exactly that, the vision that you need for your hospitality business to ensure that your processes stay what you envision in the end. I hope that.
So does that mean, how do you guide your customers through that? Or what are the pain points of existing customers that come to Apaleo? What are the pain points that they're having, number one? And then number two, how do you navigate them through the jungle of all the integrations that you have to make sure they fit with their strategies as well?
I think one of the biggest pain points our customers do have is mainly that the flexibility is missing. They want to use partners like Guestway or Smartness to create their tech stack, but it costs a ton to create an integration. It takes a lot of time. There is no flexibility in older PMS solutions. And that's the main pain point for them often, apart from the support sometimes doesn't work that good. And how we guide them through the jungle. I know that it is a jungle, and I know that it always looks super difficult to build a tech stack. I hear that a lot, but we're here to help. It's our job to, yeah, as you said, guide them through this jungle. We know our customers by heart. We know the processes. We know our partners by heart. So I know what would fit a potential customer. And in the end, if we talk to someone, we do think about it and we do see what their processes look like. And then we do decide what would work best for them. Therefore, of course, they don't have to view 400-500 different partners, but we give them some partners that they can view and decide what fits best in the end. And that makes it really easy to decide on the tech stack, I have to say.
Okay. Well, that is a bold statement in the current environment, but I take you for that. Thank you very much, Selina. Now, Jim,
Thank you.
we had the pleasure to work with you and your team, which was a great experience. And you know, when people come to us and say, "Here comes another guest comms tool," we're like, "Okay, another one." And we've seen a lot going on out there, and we don't want to name them all, but there's lots happening in guest comms, and obviously that was needed. And I want to just quickly elaborate on that. You know, with all the surveys and data that we have available to ourselves, we knew that before COVID 2019, the short-term rental travel vertical had only 45% awareness of travelers, which means only 45% of travelers have ever used an STR. Post-COVID, it was 80%. So it's obvious that guest comms became extremely crucial to build a seamless experience after booking, pre-check-in, during stay, after stay, etc., etc. And you, with your experience and your team at Stay then, you know, came with Guestway. How, and we've seen a lot of pitches, right? So how would you see, with what you're knowing out there in the marketplace, would truly differentiate you, or where are the differentiating factor with the technology that you're providing to your customers?
That's a good question, Simon. A good question. Bring us on the spot. Love it. So with Guestway, I think, first of all, a big differentiator that we have is that we are PMS agnostic. Of course, we strongly believe in the tech stack of future in this example, and we know that we have a very strong added value on top of Apaleo, because they do exactly what a PMS is doing, and we can be that layer on top of that. But we see a lot of other clients there, because the sector in general is going through consolidation. They have different PMSs. And so for us, that is not a problem at all, where different people can integrate their PMS to our platform and still being able to have an overview of these different organizations. On top of that, we're also, of course, including a lot of AI elements into our platform. And I think if you look at the full guest journey, which I talked about in my presentation as well, the fact that we can cover it completely from A to Z really makes us a differentiator in the market. And of course, we're continuously evolving. To give you an example, for example, the next big thing that we're developing is the smart operations. So if a client sends guest communication to you via the unified inbox, we will be able to perfectly analyze and categorize it into a smart operations center, and then being able to act on it. So once we have that in our head, then we completely can cover all of the back office operations in order to fully fulfill your operations. And again, this presentation is also linked to that. I think if you then have Apaleo as a PMS, Guestway on top of it for guest communication and smart operation, and then Smartness for RMS, you were talking about 7 to 8 different softwares that a property manager can use. I think with these 3 softwares, you're literally set for the future.
Excellent. Needless to say that you're coming from the sales side, and yeah, absolutely. What are the biggest challenges of your existing customers that are looking at Guestway, want to join Guestway and the tool? With what kind of challenges are they coming? Are there PMCs that have already adopted a solution in the past, or are there more companies that really want to go down and get better at the guest comms and this whole journey?
That is also a very interesting question. I think there's multiple answers. In all honesty, it's not that we have competition within our field, and you are indeed talking about a lot of guest communication tools out there, but it's not that we see that many direct competitors offering a same solution as us. So often the kind of clients that we welcome on our platform, the only thing that they have is a PMS. And they're doing the communication themselves, literally by doing channel hopping, as I was talking about before, logging into every different OTA and going all of those different things. So I really like it that we can offer them something completely innovative, taking away that channel hopping time and really making their time more efficient. We're busy with a big US client, which I was surprised for, a very big amount of listings. And they're continuously doing channel hopping. So I was like, such a big company and still having no unified inbox to work with. So I think on that part, we can really be of added value to those customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jim. I have a similar question for Simon. I mean, you're gang enough to jump in the pool of sharks with your solution as well. And one thing that we're always focusing on when we work with technology companies on the consulting and go-to-market strategies are the points that Jim has alluded to is, what are the true differentiating factors? Interesting in our observation and market knowledge in the RMS space, it's far less crowded, but they're big, right? So they're local solutions, obviously, but there's, a handful, not even global players out there in the RMS space. And I think the revenue management, the smart pricing side of the business has still been under addressed, if you ask me. And I would love to hear why. And then the second would be, and how do you differentiate with your solution from what is out there?
Thanks, Simon. I mean, as you mentioned, of course, there are many solutions out there. So it's really important to basically understand where you come from and what makes you different. We are coming from the property management sector. Like, we own our own properties. That's how also smart pricing was created. Like, we had our own properties on Lake Garda in Italy. We had the problem that we were doing the prices manually. We were looking for solutions out there on the market, didn't find them. That's why we founded the software 2018, and it worked amazingly. We could scale our properties from 30 to 100. We're still owner of properties at Lake Garda, and we are trying everything out that we roll out in our software before in our own properties, before we bring it in the software, which is a big plus, I would say, because we know what works and what doesn't work. That's one factor. The other factor is definitely that our core product or our core USP from the beginning was always machine learning. Like, our software is based on, let's say, a subcategory of artificial intelligence that is learning the more data you put in. We take historical data in consideration. We are scraping many data. We're not buying external data from any rate shopper. We have our own rate shopper included. So this is a big differentiator. We have an unlimited competitor set. So we can offer many things at the same time that on other softwares, they need to buy them externally. We have our own data.
Yeah,
we're quite proud of it.
That's a big differentiator. Yep.
And on top of it, with machine learning and the historical data we take into consideration, for example, with Apaleo, we take the last 5 years of history. So we have the data, we take them, we learn from the first moment on what worked in the past, what works in the future. That's a big plus, I would say, because it works accurate from day one.
Awesome. We have a couple of questions from the audience before we wrap this up. The first one, I guess, is for Simon from Tracy Roseboom. How does smart pricing make sure it doesn't undervalue my rates? That's an interesting part, because one thing we talk about all the time is that why should you use an OTA rate offering that is not pricing in my best interest?
I mean, to be honest, smart pricing, as I mentioned, is like focused on autopilot, so that it's working optimized and doing the optimal price at the optimal time, but you still have control. So like you as a property manager, you can still control by setting, let's say, a floor price, a minimum price for specific dates. So you're actually in control of saying, I don't want to sell below this price at a certain time. You can also set a maximum price. You can also have advanced settings that we added since January because the property managers were asking for it, so that you can actually also work on drop and pick up to work on your occupancy. If you see that you have low occupancy to a shorter rate and there's no market demand, you can drop prices. You can also increase prices if you are highly occupied. So there's a lot of flexibility, but a lot of control from your side if you want, as a property manager, that you don't allow to go below a certain price, which guarantees you basically that you're not underselling yourself. But to sum it up, we are not market demanding here. Like market demand comes from OTAs. If the market has a lot of demand, that's depending on other channels, not on us. We actually do the optimal price at optimal time.
Awesome. Thank you, Simon. I have one more question from no less than Sebastian Long from Houston, Texas. Good to have you, Sebastian, here as well. That's a question for Selina in relation to tech adoption for technology. And I think that's a very valuable question. I know the founder of Apaleo for a long time, and it took me a few times until my head was wrapped around. His question is, how technical does a company need to be to implement an API-driven PMS like Apaleo? Great question.
Thanks. Thank you, Sebastian, and hi to Houston. I have to say, you don't really need a technical background to implement Apaleo as long as you work with the core Apaleo approach and the partners where the integrations are already built. You don't have to set up any integrations or build any new integrations. We do this during the implementation process, and you'll get an onboarding manager. The onboarding manager will be by your side throughout the process and train you in using the system. When it comes to our developer hub, we would say that you definitely need some technical background. It would be best if you'll have an IT person in your company, because then you would start to really work with our APIs and build your own automations around it and things like this. So you can always extend this system to really automated and all digital approach. However, if you take the core and the partners around, there is not really a technical background needed. So I would say the answer to this question is it depends on what you would like to achieve at the end.
Excellent. Now, being mindful of time, we're going to wrap this up. Before we do that, I would like to give you the opportunity for your last few seconds of fame on this webinar as my panelists. And, and let's make this a bit more neutral in the approach. So considering that a lot of attendance today, and probably the ones who will listen to the podcast later, are early starters, considering tech stack, thinking about tech stack, and that this is going to be challenging for all of you, not to talk about your own business and your own technology. But one thing I would like you to give away to some of these newcomers in the industry, or even the ones who are thinking about, reshaping its own tech stack, what advice would you give them to end up with the solution that fits best for their particular needs, which Selina has pointed out? For me, still flabbergasting that there's more than 200 PMSs and we're doing the same thing altogether. But anyway, there is a reason behind it. Also localization, countries, regulations, etc., etc. So Simon, I want to start with you. You run your own property management business as well. If you have a colleague who wants to adopt technology, what advice do you give him?
I mean, I would repeat what Selina said. It depends. Like telling someone he has to use XYZ software, I think is not the right approach. It's the right approach to actually understand what their needs are and what the strategy and target is. Like if they want to scale, of course, technology is there to help. Technology is also here to basically take away time from manual work. So I think it's really important about taking this risk step of saying, okay, I give away manual work and I focus on what's important, which is the customer and that they're happy. And of course, there are many, many systems out there. If it comes to PMS, if it comes to RMS, I think it really depends on that the property manager understands the value the software brings and the experience they bring with, and also the type of case studies, examples, and so on they have, that they really feel, okay, that's the right tech stuff for me to start with. But of course, they need definitely a PMS as a core to start with to avoid manual
Of course.
handling of bookings and so on. And if you want to optimize your communication, of course, you need something like Guestway. And if you want to increase basically your revenue with a smart solution, and smart pricing is something as well. But we can add on top of it, because we saw it from your landscape. There are many, many things out there. Make sure to have a proper setup from the base, I would say, and then scale if you want.
Thank you, Simon. Jim?
Not really anything to add there. The only thing that I think about what is the perfect tech stack solution for you is that we see also more and more these all-in-one PMSs, which if you can compare it, it's for me like a big boat sailing around, and it's a good solution and it does the perfect needs that you have, often basic, but it can provide a good solution that you want. What I would always keep in mind is that whenever you have these smaller solutions, the best of breed, as we would call it, as we are presenting here today, in my opinion, whether it's Guestway, Smartness, or anything else, it's always nice to see those, because I believe they will always be more specialized in whatever field they're active in. So I would advise to try those smaller software out, give them a chance. They're often more specialized. They are the small sailing boats going around the big cargo ship, where they're often more flexible and can do more stuff than the all-in-one PMSs. But of course, as Simon and Selina said, to every different needs belongs a different story and software. But I just wanted to share that short story with you as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Selina, what would
Sorry.
you recommend? What would you recommend to someone who wants to get into the space to build the right technology stack without having to go immediately after Apaleo?
I think there is not really that much to add to what Jim and Simon said. It's, as they said, you have to build a proper base, whoever it is, try the property management systems, really try to work with them, because in the end, the feeling when you use it is important as well. You want your employees to use it, so test it out, see if it works for you, educate yourself if you want to scale. Check the things out, and as Jim said, give the smaller companies a chance, because as he said, they do really good work, and most of the time they are more flexible than the bigger ones. Yeah.
Excellent. Well put. Great input here today. To add maybe a last on my own note, if you want to have somebody who helps you navigate in that jungle, work with a service provider like AJL, that's exactly what we do. Help people formulate their strategies, help them find the best solutions, think about what is my plan with my business, what am I doing in 3 years. There's a lot of answers to that, and sometimes it helps to reflect those to also make the right decisions that fits your strategy over time, and we'd be more than happy to support you. So I want to thank our panelists today for their presentation, their input. Really enjoyed it. It was nice to have you on this podcast, which will be shared, and some of that will obviously go public as well, which is great. For that, I want to thank Simon Assenger, Jim Blaze, and Selina Wendel for being part of this podcast today, this webinar. I wish everybody a cool place to cool off today, wherever you are in this hot heating summer, and wishing you all a successful summer season in your PMC business, and see you around soon. Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Simon, bye-bye. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.